Proverbs 9. Wisdom hath builded her house. She hath hewn out her 7 pillars. She hath killed her beasts. She hath mingled her wine. She hath also furnished her table. She hath sent forth her maidens. She crieth upon the highest places of the city. Whoso is simple, let him turn in hither. As for him that wanteth understanding, she saith to him, Come, eat of my bread, and drink of the wine which I have mingled. Forsake the foolish, and live, and go in the way of understanding. He that reproveth a scorner getteth to himself shame, and he that rebuketh a wicked man getteth himself a blot. Reprove not a scorner, lest he hate thee. Rebuke a wise man, and he will love thee. Give instruction to a wise man, and he will be yet wiser. Teach a just man, and he will increase in learning. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, and the knowledge of the holy is understanding. For by me thy days shall be multiplied, and the years of thy life shall be increased. If thou be wise, thou shalt be wise for thyself. But if thou scornest, thou alone shalt bear it. A foolish woman is clamorous, she is simple, and knoweth nothing. For she sitteth at the door of her house on a seat in the high places of the city, to call passengers who go right on their ways. Whoso is simple, let him turn in hither. And as for him that wanteth understanding, she saith to him, Stolen waters are sweet, and bread eaten in secret is pleasant. But he knoweth not that the dead are there, and that her guests are in the depths of hell.
Says a lot. It's Monday, September 22nd, 2014. This is your host, Mike Callahan, and welcome to the Watchman News. Wow. Proverbs 9. Proverbs has a lot of good information in it, a lot of good teachings, a lot of truth. A lot of truth. You know, I can't emphasize any more how important it is to read the Bible, to understand what the Bible itself says, not the church down the street, not the pastor or the preacher on TV, the Bible itself, what God said, not what I say it says, not that Joe Blow says it says, what it speaks to you in your heart. That's a fact. That's a fact. You know, even in this world, if we couldn't, I don't expect everybody to believe in God. I don't expect that. But if we could at least agree to try to live by the lessons that is taught in the Bible, it would be a much better place. And it's a fact that as a society that we have gotten further and further and further away from those teachings, the further that the society itself has fell to the wayside. And again, the answer isn't that everybody has to believe in God and in God as the higher power, but they need to believe in the teachings that the Bible offers. At least that much. Put whatever name on it that you want. The important thing is that you live. That you live right. It's an interesting world these days. So many people would rather tear another person down so they can get a little bit of temporary self-satisfaction, I guess, than what they would to help lift another up. It's an amazing world, it really is. In good ways and bad. Sadly, it's becoming more bad. So anyway, I didn't really plan on giving a Bible lecture at the beginning of the show. I've got so much news to cover, I don't even know how I'm going to get through it all. So, without a further ado, let's... where did I... Oh, I see how I am. Okay, so let's play Suspicious Observers first, and then I'll jump right into the news, and I'm going to be bam, bam, bam. I'm going to try not to stick too long on any one story, because then I'll never get it all done. And I'll have to bump stories over to tomorrow, and, you know... It's been a crazy, crazy news weekend, and all weekend I've been grabbing this story and that story, or this video and that video. So, yeah, it happens. But I think we'll be all right. So I am going to have to go to and get Suspicious Observers video, because apparently I didn't put it in my links. See how I am? All right, here we go. Hang on, let me, I hate when it plays a second video right after. Alright, enjoy.
Good morning, folks. Let's start with quakes. Iceland again rang in the high 5 or 6 magnitude range. And let's go ahead and take a deeper look, literally. Focusing on the southeast quadrant of the nation, we're going to see the earthquakes by depth and magnitude in this area. On this page, you can set the magnitude and timelines for the listed quakes, and on the 3D diagram you can twist and turn and take looks at the underground activity from every angle. Perspective is good. By the way, they downgraded that earthquake to 5.1. We also took 2 above average tremors in the Caribbean. The 4s and higher are rare. Also have a slight uptick in the South Pacific. The southernmost coronal hole that stole focus from the northern leader will be Earth-facing today and be relevant for a few. Bartol, it's like you don't even care that we're watching. Muon's still not reading above 101. Solar flaring indeed had a small and brief uptick before plummeting back. Primary eruption came from a departing zone, actually, on the right. Last night we saw that the ejecta was probably heading well ahead of our orbital trajectory, and the endless spiral confirms an Earth miss here. Solar wind shows some density bunching as the speed slows down. It's nothing major, but nearly all sensitive flux picked it up. The electrons, the protons, both high energy and low energy. Sunspots turning in look fairly solid, but when you take a closer look, there is a fair bit of separation between the umbral and penumbral regions, and the candidates for magnetic mixing between polarities is sparse at best, maybe a tad worth south of the trailing spots. I'll ask that you recall the U.S. August climate report showing cooler temperatures dominating the month. A good balance of hot and cold extremes persisted globally June through August, with August itself dipping a little bit lower. And just look, how did they get away with publishing this chart to the media and calling it the warmest August ever? Climate change extremes are going to bite the lone warming wolves in the behind this winter. Rosetta's latest looking like the previous ones, except for a curious feature illuminated in the distant portion of the frame. That white thing is like nothing we've seen on this comet and really looks like it doesn't belong there. Interesting. Maven has arrived at Mars, just in time to prepare to hide on the opposite side of the planet when comet sighting spring whips by in 4 weeks. Devastation in the Philippines from Typhoon Feng Wong, and we're hearing Taiwan didn't fare much better. Right now the storm is less than 100 miles from Shanghai. North America sees another Gulf moisture flow into the west, a convergence sweeping back east, and a high-pressure cell driving south on its east edge, bringing snow possibilities to New England a day after the global warming march on New York. Flash floods expected, and storms are widespread tonight. Be alert and check local forecasts. Europe, the storms and precipitation zones are spreading such that I just want to tell your entire continent to check your local forecasts, except for the UK and Ireland. Southwestern convergence, northeastern low, and a full right atop New Zealand. Those are the watch zones, but we do expect them to shift very quickly in the next few hours. Folks, that central erupting filament a few days ago indeed kept the quake ramped to those unusual location rumbles when it disrupted the northern coronal hole. Her southern extension will try its luck the next 2 to 3 days, 6:30 a.m. Eastern Time, 4:30 a.m. Mountain Time as the mobile observatory rolls back east across the country. Eyes open. No fear. Be safe, everyone.
Thanks again to Ben Davidson. His link's down in the About tab, as always. And, wow, lots of information he had today. Let's get on with the news, and we're going to start out with something that is, at least to me, very, very disturbing. And I'm going to try to take just a moment to speak about it a little bit. The Georgia Guidestones. If you're not familiar with the Georgia Guidestones, real quick here, I'm going to just go to Google and I'm going to search it. The reason why some of the stuff I do right here with you is because I want you to see how easy it is to find this stuff. It's really easy. It's not hard. These things have existed for quite some time. I forget what year they were erected. However, and I don't see it right here. However, there are 10 rules that are put on these stones. They're in Georgia, and I'll read through the rules real quick. 1, maintain humanity under 500 million, right? In perpetual balance with nature. Sorry, 500 million. Guide reproduction wisely, improving fitness and diversity. Unite humanity with a living new language. Rule passion, faith, tradition, and all things with tempered reason. Protect people and nations with fair laws and just courts. Let all nations rule internally, resolving external disputes in a world court. Avoid petty laws and useless officials. Balance personal rights with social duties. Prize truth, beauty, love, seeking harmony with the infinite. Be not a cancer on the earth. Leave room for nature. Leave room for nature. Now, some of that stuff may sound pretty good, and I would, agree. Some of it looks good on the surface. But it's the implementation of this. It is who is behind these guidestones that we need to be concerned with. So, I've known about these guidestones for many years, and again, I don't remember what year that the guidestones were up. Trying to think, and I've never been to this site that I ever recall. I really haven't. I guess it's been here for a while, but I thought maybe it might have might have the year that I could find out real quick, but they've been there for quite some time. I can't remember the year that they were put up. And I don't see it real quick, so I'm not going to stick on that. But yeah, they've been there. It's kind of, if you really think about it in depth, it's kind of taking away everything, right? It's kind of taking life away from living to be able to do all these. I mean, again, on the surface, they sound, like, well, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. But, in order to achieve a perfect world, which can't happen to begin with, you have to take away all the imperfection. And the imperfection is what makes life worth living. It really is. Yes, it's our mistakes, it's our bad times that make us appreciate the good. I don't want a perfect life. I'd like a better life, but I don't expect a perfect one. And right now things in my personal life are on an upswing. Hopefully they continue on an upswing. I try not to get very personal on the show here. Getting ready to get the juice business started back up. Got some supplies today. Be receiving some more supplies, I believe, Wednesday. And I'll be ready to sell some juice. But I'm 42 years old, and in those 42 years, I could not possibly even think of all the mistakes that I've made. I couldn't think of all the mistakes I've made in the last year. But I learned from those mistakes. And it's those mistakes that give me a reason to appreciate and love when things go a little bit better in life. And I know it's a long-winded way of, and I've got a lot of news to cover, but this is important. This is why this is the first story. I'm not going to be like typical news that puts like the important stuff at the end to keep viewers and all that. I'm not about that. I'm about bringing you the truth, bringing you what's important. Sometimes I fall short because there just isn't a whole lot of good stuff available. But this is of utmost importance here. But anyway, so I wanted to take you a little tour of these stones and talk to you a little bit about the information that's contained on them stones. And I forget, boy, I fail. I should be fired. I can't remember how many sides all the stones have. However, it is in several languages is what I'm getting at. It's, I guess it's in 8 different languages, and I'm just guessing there. I think it's in like 8 different languages. But these stones are in Georgia. Just kind of like out in the middle of nowhere, just kind of sitting there. I noticed a video that just recently came out that they now have, it would appear that now they have cameras monitoring the Guidestones, which I thought was interesting. I would like to personally know who it is that's manning the monitors that's watching. But anyway, that's off target. So let's play this video. This just happened, and I don't have an exact day, date, or even week that this happened. Apparently somebody noticed this, shot video of it. A huge thanks to them. Huge thanks to them. This, no pun intended, is monumental. Absolutely monumental. And it should be a bit scary. I take it that way. And I'm not one just to run and scream doom, gloom, doom, gloom. We better pay attention to this.
This is Dabu7. A big update when it comes to the Georgia Guidestones. Some of you may have already seen this information, but this is for my subs and those of you out there that have not. Now, with all the mystery that comes with the Georgia Guidestones, one of the biggest things involved with this structure is the fact that it has a number of 500 million. And that's the number of people in which they wish to have on this planet. That's a huge reduction from where we're sitting right now. Now, these mystery men or mystery man or women that built this and paid for this have returned. And they have put this engraving of 2014 on the Georgia Guidestones. So now we finally have a date, and we don't have a whole lot of time left in this year. So whatever these people knew or know, they're stating it is set to begin at any time. So whether it's all fluke or not, just wanted to point it out and let it be known that with all the mystery here involved with this and potential threat, it now has a date, 2014. It's been Dabu 7. I'll leave links. Eyes open.
And I've got the link down there in the About tab to Dabu's video, to which you can catch the other links that he has. It's shocking. And apparently, and I didn't know this, apparently a couple of years ago, there was a notch cut up in there, and I was totally unaware that they had returned and cut a notch out to where they eventually had placed this. I want to call it a cornerstone. I don't know if that's the correct terminology for it, but we better pay attention to that. We better pay close attention to that. And something's about to happen. There are so many people that just feel it all throughout their being. There are just too many people. I've talked to so many people, they know it. They know it. And then you got the absolutely insane, crazy acts that are going on. You know, a guy cutting his girlfriend apart and cooking her and eating her. You know, and the other guy that cooked his girlfriend's dog and ate it. And, I'm not trying to just stick with the cannibalistic dog-eating stories or nothing, but that's pretty insane behavior, and we just don't see that. We just didn't have that amount of craziness, and I'm not making a poke at mental illness or anything like that. Lord knows I wouldn't do that. I can't speak. But be ready. Be ready. I spent more time on that than I really intended to. So let's get rolling with the rest of the news. I know I've got like an 8-minute video here, but it was it's important. Again, I wouldn't have this if it's not important. And if I run out of time and I have to do news tomorrow, or some of this news tomorrow, that's fine. But I sit there and I think about different things, and it's like, well, is it important that I really have that more important than time talking about something? And I'm speaking primarily about the videos I have. And this is like 8 minutes, but I think it says something, and it says it in a level, more eloquently than what I could put it, from a good man, Lucas Cameron. So, and the link to that video is down in the About tab too. But let me go ahead and play that, and then we will go from there, and I'll try and get through as many of these stories as I can before 8 o'clock. So here we go.
Welcome to Seven Trumpets Prepper, and in this video today, guys, I want to share with you something that's been on my mind since I'd done that video with my friend Kevin O'Brien that's a realtor. Me and him got to talking that day after we filmed that video. If you want to see the one I'm talking about in particular right there, we got to talking about the fact that, you know, if you don't start now, returning to the old paths, there's no going back later. And what I mean by that is prepping wise, I'll get to that. And I also want to talk about a spiritual perspective that I got to think about even beyond what we were talking about. I'll cover the prepping aspect of that. What I mean first is that if you don't put your hand tools and you don't put back things that you can power later, this stuff here is going to fail you if you don't do something about it. Obviously, I mean, this thing needs a wood gasifier piped in, and as you can see, we've got her stripped down. It's a work in progress, but there's going to come a time that if a person hasn't done their due diligence to put back at least some hand tools, you know, gardening tools, things to get back to the old paths, you're not going to be able to do it. And the reason being is, as me and Kevin was talking about, if you think about back in the 1600s, the 1700s, 1800s, even up into the early 1900s, there was always hand tools. There was always heck, you could hook a horse up to something, plow a field, and which the Amish do that to this day, or Amish, however you want to pronounce it. But the point is those people, just like the Amish, and people in the prior generations, our ancestors, always had a means for getting something done. There was always an old way of doing it, the old paths. And then everything got mechanical. And then everything got technological. And now everything's like this, well, I don't even have it on me at the minute. That's a good thing, my cell phone. You know, it's gotten so high-tech and fancy that all these other things are cast off. And for a prepper, that is not the answer, is to cast those things off. They should be salvaged. You know, this stuff like this right here that's mechanical, make it work while you can. Later down the road, hey, it's got to go. All right, there's no going back to this stuff. All right, the only thing you can go back to is the old paths if you put it back, because you can't go get a horse after, you know, bad times come. You can't go get an old plow at you know, some antique place and fix it back up. Then you can't go back to doing all these things then. It needs to be started now, and it's just so imperative because me and Kevin really got to talking about it, breaking it down, and if you think about it, most people on average don't even have garden tools, don't even have the slightest idea how to even begin a garden. Just the most basic necessities to begin homesteading, because now I'm speaking for a moment from the heart, from homesteading, from being a farmer all my life before I became a prepper in 2009. I'm talking literally, this is from the heart, people. Is that all these things all my life I took for granted because we always had both means. My grandfather had Belgian draft horses, some of the finest in the land. You know, to see him hook to them, pull, plow, or do whatever, it wasn't no surprise. I mean, yeah, that's Papa doing his thing. Nowadays, I'm like, oh my gosh. You know, I'm like, if we had to go back to that, could somebody do it? And, you know, me and Dad's been working on the farm and everything, and the old plows and stuff, we were recovering some of them here recently, and I was just thinking, you know, we do have the best of both worlds, and I ain't saying that to brag, but when you have both perspectives to look at, it makes you consider very quickly in your heart, how will I keep that going, you know, later down the road, post-collapse, whether it's Seven Trumpets Revelation, economic collapse, whatever, because just like I'm looking out there right now at one of the tractors, you know, even though we could roll the thing off the hill, get it going if we had to, that still you need fuel for it at some conjuncture. There's just so many factors to take in whenever you go to looking at that, as opposed to how the people of the old days done is you had a hoe and you had a meal in your stomach from that morning and you went out to the field and you got it done. And that's exactly how it's going to have to get back to. And I think that that's the endurance aspect is going to get a lot of people. I think even if they do have the tooling, the fact that they don't never put it to application, it's going to be what breaks them. You know, it's the little stuff that gets you. And so I'd encourage you to definitely get those things now. I want to read you something from the scripture, and I was thinking about this because this covers so many people. Seriously, it really does. It says in Jeremiah, in Yirmiyahu, chapter 6, verse 16 says, "Thus said Yahweh." So this is not one of the prophets' thoughts. This is not some man's thoughts. This is the Most High instruction. "Thus said Yahweh, stand in the ways and see, and ask for the old paths, where the good way is, and walk in it, and find rest for yourselves. But they said, we do not walk." And it gets better. "And I raised up watchmen over you. Listen to the sound of the ram's horn. But they said, we do not listen." And I want to read two more. I mean, it really hits home. "Therefore hear you nations, and know, O congregation, what is up on them. Hear, O earth," speaking to everyone. "See, I am bringing evil upon this people, even the fruit of their thoughts, because they have not listened to my words, nor my Torah, and they rejected it." And, you know, just like that people ain't made preparation for the seven trumpets of Revelation, people ain't made preparation for anything really anymore. And we are living in the lip service society generation. I think that's the best way to label it. People is so lukewarm, and even when it comes to people with prepping, they don't even really do their due diligence. And so, ladies and gentlemen, I want to encourage you today that if you don't have a means to go back to the old paths, and I mean the old paths, when I mean old paths, I'm not talking get your tractor out, I'm talking the hand method, you know, hand tools, hand work, that you really need to think on these things, because one day you're going to have to fall back on it. And my best advice is to get started today. And not only that, if you ain't gotten back to the old paths in Scripture and keeping the Master's commands, it don't matter how much we prep. If we're not doing our due diligence to honor Him, keep His commands when the time comes, you could have the best equipment, the best preps in the world, and it ain't going to save you from nothing. So until we see again here at Seven Trumpets Prepper Channel, I hope it's a help to you, and I hope you have a most blessed day in Yahushua's name.
So yeah, you know, and I've said it over and over and over. We have to be very mindful about just some common sense things that a lot of people take for granted every single day. You know, being able to go to the store and get a loaf of bread, that's nothing. I mean, that's, you know, but people take it for granted. And I constantly ask people, how much work, how much time goes into that loaf of bread? And if you know anything about history, you know that bread was a staple, an absolute staple. You know, if it wasn't for bread, probably a lot of people wouldn't make it. So I ask, you know, and I don't know how much square footage or whatever of wheat that it would take to make a loaf of bread. But you're talking one loaf of bread. And sure, the Amish has, you know, their equipment yet, and they still know how to use it and stuff like that. But let me tell you what, those Amish people can't feed everybody. And sure, they can teach us their ways, and I do believe in my heart that they would be more than happy to teach us their ways. But we don't have the trained horses for it. We don't have the equipment ready for it. We don't, you know, a lot of lives would be lost before we could get a system implemented to be able to continue farming. But there is light at the end of the tunnel. You've heard me talk about it before. A gasifier. Learn how to build a gasifier. Because with that gasifier, we can run combustion engines. We can run them by burning wood. Because if you burn wood hot enough, you'll create hydrogen. It's a fact. It's not new technology. They did it back in World War II. They did it overseas. They had kits you could buy to put on your car because they were really rationing gas really bad over there. And you could actually buy a kit from a company to put a gasifier on your car. And you literally threw wood in a hopper, lit it on fire, you know, and went through the procedure and drove your car. It's not new technology. But it could literally save millions of lives. Literally. So anyway, I wanted to show you that video because I did think it was important. We have to start looking at these things. I do feel a sense of urgency with things going on in the world, and you know, without without a basic way of surviving, you know, a lot of lives are going to be lost. No matter what, a lot of lives are going to be lost. But we can minimalize it to an extent. I mean, that's very possible to do. So let's get on with the news. Let me start running. Hit the ground and run. I'll do as many as I can. I probably won't get them all tonight. Ebola reaching the U.S. It's not just a matter of if anymore. Taking the temperature of travelers is not controlling anything, and doing so at airports certainly will not stop anyone infected with the virus from traveling. The incubation period can be up to 21 days with no symptoms appearing during this time. Taking temperatures is doing something, however ineffective it may be, and the authorities must look like they're at least responding. But a person can be infected and not have a temperature, so where does that leave us all? 75,000 patients die each year in U.S. hospitals from infections spread patient to patient. This according to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention. This lack of proper hygiene in American hospitals will allow the Ebola virus to spread to others once it reaches to America. No one, it seems, bats an eye at that number of deaths caused by the spread of infections in hospitals. What would the reaction be if the CDC announced 75,000 people are now infected with Ebola in the United States, however? Panic would ensue, is what would happen. Do you think that healthcare workers are purposely letting people die from infections spread from patient to patient? No, of course not. But a lack of procedures, incompetency, and bureaucratic red tape allows it, and things will not change just because Ebola is on the loose. If they wanted to change, they had the ability to change, they would have already. Healthcare workers will be ones first or infected first, and will likely be the ones to die first once the virus spreads to the U.S. because they would have some sort of first contacts with the disease. Yet healthcare workers would supposedly be the ones most prepared not to contract the disease. In West Africa, healthcare workers in the outbreak areas are becoming infected and are dying from the disease. I'm not going to read this whole... I've got the link down there. I'm going to try and get as much done as I can, but this thing is a nightmare, and I do believe it's coming to this country. I don't think there's any keeping it out now, and it is an absolute nightmare. So let's get on, because I want to I want to cover it all tonight. Russian scientists, world facing mini ice age rather than global warming, and you've heard me talk about this several times. You've heard me mention this several times. And it's just simply because, you know, look, I don't know any major secrets or anything like that. I just listen to the right people. I turn off that television. I don't listen to everything I hear on the internet. That's important too. But I listen to independent people that have a passion for what they do. And Suspicious Observers is one of those. Ben Davison, he's one of those individuals. I would much rather trust something that comes out of his mouth than I would really just about anybody else's. And if he, you know, validates someone else, I'm willing to listen to what they have to say. Because I'll tell you what, some of the things that he has covered and talked about are the ways that I've seen things for years when it comes to weather, because I was a weather fanatic for quite a bit of my life. And there were just some interesting things, especially when it came to thunderstorms, supercell thunderstorms, and stuff like that. Just connections that I made, but I never ever heard anybody else speak about it until I heard Ben Davison speak about it. So anyway, I've been saying this about this mini ice age for quite some time. I didn't make it up. I'm sure that Ben Davidson's not the first person I've heard it from, I don't think. But yeah, let's just get on with the story though. September 19th, the world will soon witness a mini ice age rather than global warming. A solar output has been declining in recent years, a Russian scientist told RIA Novosti Friday. During the past 17 years, global temperatures have not been rising. Temperatures have stabilized. There has been no warming since 1997. The power of solar irradiance has decreased consistently since 1990 and still rapidly declining. Since 1990, the sun has not been warming the earth as in the past, said Habibullo Adusmatov. Hey, give me some credit. That had to be close. An astrophysicist and head of space research at St. Petersburg's Provoco Astronomical Observatory. See, and that messes me up on words that I do know. According to him, I cheated, our planet may enter what he calls a mini ice age at the beginning of next year. The mini ice age is associated with a change in the power of solar output and has a quasi-period of some 200 years. Roughly speaking, 2 centuries plus minus 70 years, he told RIA Novosti. He noted that temperatures usually fall by about 1 to 1.5 degrees Celsius during so-called mini ice ages. The average temperature around the globe will fall by about 1.5 degrees when we enter the deep cooling phase of the mini ice age. This is expected around the year 2060, plus or minus 11 years, he said. He believes that the cooling phase will last for about 45 to 65 years, after which the world will enter another quasi-centennial warming cycle that will take place in the beginning of the 22nd century. The world must start preparing for the global cool down right away, he said. Politicians and business leaders must take full economic calculations of the impact that the mini ice age is going to have on everything: industry, agriculture, living conditions, development, he stated. And I find it interesting that he more or less focuses on the economic calculations. I think we need to worry about feeding ourselves before we worry about paying ourselves, which seems to be the current problem we're having on this planet. It's amazing. It's amazing. And this stuff I see on social media, it just really weighs on me. Really weighs on me. And the same people, you know, claim to know our Father. Amazing. Anyway, so let's go from reality to, well, reality TV. Why not? Woman has surgery to add third breast. That's what I said. Have you ever been so fed up with the dating scene that you considered reconstructive surgery to make yourself less attractive? Jasmine? Is it Tri-Devil? Tri-Devil? Should we go there? A 21-year-old massage therapist from Tampa, Florida underwent surgery to have a third breast implanted right in between her left and right breasts. Good place to put it, I guess. In an interview, Tri-Devil told Orlando radio station Real Radio 104.1 she had to contact 50 or more doctors before she found an idiot. She found one who would perform this surgery. It was really hard finding someone that would do it because they're breaking the code of ethics, she said. Tri-Devil also told the station her family is displeased with her decision to have the surgery. I don't even know the lady and I'm displeased. Oh my goodness. One of her goals was to make herself less attractive to men because she is no longer interested in dating. She also expressed that she really wants to have her own reality show on MTV and thinks this is the best way to reach the goal. This is the story. This is what she wants. Really, because if you don't want to date, you just like tell the guys no or don't go out or I don't know. I don't know. I was laughing at something else, not this story, but Yeah, I mean, I really, I have nowhere to go with that story other than ask the question, what is this world coming to? Really? I mean, come on. Come on. When you're willing to do that, when you're willing to mutilate your body, whether it's adding or taking away or whatever, it's still a form of mutilation. And to self-mutilate, to just say, I want you to do this to me, so that you could be on a TV show? Really? It's a little messed up. It's a little messed up. I don't know. So, let me move on. I, once in a while, like to refuel myself with why I feel about certain things. And I will purposely look for these type of videos so that I can remind myself, so I can ground myself, so I can pull myself off of any cloud that I might be on, so that I can be real, so I can be human. What society guides people to be is not human. Not whatsoever. If you want to see human, pick up the Bible, read the Bible. That's human. I don't know what this is that you call us today, but it's so far away from being human, it's unreal. And I often wonder if they need to change the definition of the word humanity, to be honest. But this is one of the things that reminds me why we have to quit doing what we're doing. This is just a simple reunion, but it reminds me anyway, why we have to stop sending our children to die, and why we need to stop taking other parents' children and then making up some BS bogus story as to how we were protecting people, or we're doing this or we're doing that. No, you're killing people. You're killing other people, and you're killing our own people. Don't get me wrong, I believe in a strong defense, but the wars we've been involved in, that's not defense. Anyway, this is just a reminder. This is one of hundreds of videos that I watch to help me understand how important life is and how important love is. I thought I'd share it with you. This one, some of them strike a chord a little better than others, and this does a pretty good job.
Returning home from deployment is an exciting time for both military members and family. Master Sergeant Joseph Martell is no exception, but he's one of the lucky ones. He got to come home early. His wife is aware of the early return, but his son has no idea.
Hi, I'm Master Sergeant Joe Martell. Just returned from Afghanistan, and I'm in Brussels to surprise my son during his football game.
Trading one uniform for another, the uniform of the opposing team, Sergeant Martell waited patiently as his son, number 51, played his heart out on the field, unaware of his watching father standing only yards away. In between the third and fourth quarter, referees called a meeting on the field to discuss sportsmanship, a clever disguise for a family reunion.
I had no idea what was going to happen, and all of a sudden he was just there. I thought he was, I don't even know how many miles, and next thing I know, he's standing in front of me, and I'm giving him a hug.
I felt outstanding to be able to surprise him like that and see his reaction.
A moment of genuine emotion and surprise, a family reunited, and a priceless memory made, a father and son together again.
you don't even know what to do. You just want to like jump up and down like a little kid.
I'm exhausted, but I'm excited to see my son, spend some good quality time with him, and enjoy some football.
It's got to stop. It's got to stop. Everybody is not a boogeyman, and we need to understand that within our own nation. We need to understand that within the world. And, you know, look, I understand that everything is not going to be roses, and I have a pretty good understanding, you know, that you can't stop bullying. Okay, it's not going to happen. But you can toughen your own kids up enough to deal with that bullying. That you can control. That you can do. Again, I believe in having a strong defense. But, you know, if another country decides that's not what's important to them and they wound up getting taken over or what, that's on them. Really. The people should be allowed to be able to take up arms and protect themselves, just like it's supposed to be in this country. And that's why nobody has invaded this country. But I think it's coming. Because I think people that haven't really thought things through for themselves are just sheep following the sheep leader, you know, don't understand that the best deterrent for an invading army is knowing, or should I say, not knowing where the bullets are going to come from. You know, I don't know. I don't understand everything in the world. I don't want to. But I do know that we have to take responsibility in many, many ways, and we're just not doing it. We're shoving the responsibility for everything off on somebody else, just as long as we can play with an iPhone or watch a TV show and not be bothered. We're ripe for the pickings. We're about as ripe as you get. That's why I don't think we've got a whole lot longer to worry about. So we'll see. We'll hope. I'll pray. Wow. Let's go on. Let's do this story. Well, I'm halfway through. So I'm going to do this story. We'll call it at that, and then tomorrow I will pick up where I left off today. And I still probably got a whole show worth of stuff, to be honest. So anyway, this is an Alaskan reporter that quit her job on the air, in support of legalizing marijuana. And I normally don't take, any real firm stances on here, because it's up to us as individuals to make our own personal decisions. But I do believe it's an extremely absurd what they are doing when it comes to marijuana. I personally do feel it should be legalized. I personally feel people need to stop talking. The people that are talking it in the ground need to really stop talking about something they don't know about. And that goes for everything, not just this topic. That goes for everything. Opinions are fine. There's nothing wrong with somebody stating an opinion. But what's important is that opinion is based on fact. Because when we don't base an opinion on fact, we just base it because of our feelings or because of what somebody else said. It may be, our opinion may be in poor taste. And that's about all I can say. I mean, do your research. If you don't think it should be legalized, do your research about marijuana itself. Do your research about the countries that have legalized it and what happened after they legalized it. Do your research on the state of Colorado and the changes that they've had. Crime has gone down. Prescription drug abuse has gone down. tax revenue has skyrocketed. I mean, skyrocketed. Not a single death, not a single person harmed, and there are people still wanting to argue it. So anyway, this is what this Alaskan reporter said. There is one foul word in it. I'll give you that warning. Let's play this.
Good evening, I'm Alexis Fernandez. The Alaska Cannabis Club calls itself Alaska's first and only legal medical marijuana resource. And today, the club is launching its own campaign to help legalize recreational marijuana on November 4th. KTV 11 Charlotte Green spoke with the people behind the Alaska Cannabis Club and the people working to keep marijuana illegal. Charlotte?
Well, Alexis, the Vote No on 2 campaign says the vote on November 4th has nothing to do with medical marijuana. The Alaska Cannabis Club says otherwise. In fact, today, it's launching the Vote Yes on 2 for Freedom and Fairness campaign to help the thousands of Alaskan medical marijuana cardholders find easier access to their medicine.
Very hard when you see your own child going through this.
It has been a long and trying 6 months for Solomon Nashupuk. He's been waging a war against the testicular cancer threatening to claim his life.
I was diagnosed in March of 2014.
How old were you?
I was 20 at the time.
20.
Yeah.
Prescription drugs and chemotherapy led to dramatic weight loss and insomnia until his own mother recommended he try medical marijuana.
I know it helped with his appetite with all that chemo and treatment and all the nausea and everything. And it helps his appetite pretty good.
So as a mom, you weren't concerned at all about marijuana?
No.
But Tilly Nashupuk says she was concerned about her son having to break the law to obtain his medical marijuana until the Alaska Cannabis Club entered the picture.
I saw online on Facebook about the Cannabis Club, and I gave the number to him to call.
Definitely more patients out there like Solomon, and their illness is very widely.
Co-founder of the Alaska Cannabis Club, Peter Lamonaco, says people like Solomon are why the Alaska Cannabis Club exists.
We are a group of Alaskans operating for Alaskans, and we're not here to hurt anybody. We're just out here to fulfill, a safe way for these people to obtain their medication that they need.
Both Lamonaco and the Nashupuk say unless Alaskans vote to pass ballot measure 2 and legalize recreational marijuana, medical marijuana patients in the state will continue to be forced to feed the black market when they can't get to the Alaska Cannabis Club. Christina Woolston with the Big Marijuana, Big Mistake Vote No on 2 campaign says ballot measure 2 has nothing to do with medical marijuana patients.
Well, medical marijuana is legal in Alaska, and we do feel like there should be a conversation about medical marijuana, but that's not what this ballot measure is about.
But the Alaska Cannabis Club maintains ballot measure 2 has everything to do with medical marijuana, and they say they'll be working to ensure the measure passes in the coming weeks.
Now, everything you heard is why I, the actual owner of the Alaska Cannabis Club, will be dedicating all of my energy toward fighting for freedom and fairness, which begins with legalizing marijuana here in Alaska. And as for this job, well, not that I have a choice, but fuck it, I quit.
All right, we apologize for that. We'll be right back. Pardon for us. Meanwhile, the Vote Yes on 2 campaign held a fundraiser last night with Gary Johnson, the CEO of one of the largest cannabis businesses in the nation, who is also a former New Mexico governor, and 20
I have to admit, it would be it would be a disaster to be a news anchor and have to recover from that. But anyway, yeah, to begin with, the whole medical marijuana thing. Okay. Marijuana does help. I mean, just an astronomical amount of people. And everything from pain to mental illness to nausea and what's crazy, there's so much crazy with this. It's funny because it's usually the liberals that support the legalization of marijuana, and it's also usually the liberals that want to jab everybody with a frickin' vaccine. And I did say frickin'. even when I want to say something else. You know, they want to jab us, and the reason why I have a little animosity there is I just read on the old evil book that I know somebody that their daughter's having some bad side effects from the Gardasil vaccine, which is a nightmare. But it's the same people that want to legalize the marijuana that want to jab us with the poison, the mercury, and the aluminum phosphates, and everything else that's in these vaccines. It's the same people. It blows my mind. Also the same people that want to save the whales but kill babies. It makes no sense to me. But, and that's why I say don't carry a flag. Don't, you know, oh, I'm this, you know, category, you know, because you're accepting a group of things. Don't do that. Be an individual. Don't have to be a member of a club. You don't have to be a member of a club. You can be an individual. Be an individual. That's what we are. I remember when they used to impress upon us that each of us are like a snowflake. We're all different. And that's okay, and that's wonderful, and that's what makes us special. And it is. So by letting others define you in this group or that group or the other group, every time you allow yourself to be grouped in with another group, you lose some of that individuality. You lose some of that makes you special. Don't let them do it. Think for yourself. And I know that has nothing to do with legalization of marijuana, but, you know, these medical marijuana laws are a joke. It's like sweeping the floor and then sweeping everything you swept up under the couch. You didn't really clean. Just looks a little better on the surface. And that's the same thing. You know, it's like the state of Illinois. They passed medical marijuana legislation. But the list of things that you can get it for is so short, and the amount of stuff that you have to go through is so enormous. You know, it's like, what's the point? You know, it's ridiculous. And then you get more instances where doctors can dip their hands in and say, oh, well, we need to do this, so we need this fee, and we need that fee, and we need to get the medical community back under check. We really do. I did have, I don't know if I say that. There was a story that I had. I don't know. I will try to find it if I don't have it, and I will try to have it for tomorrow night's show. Anyway, we're 6 minutes over. I'm going to go ahead and get out of here. I will do the rest of the stories tomorrow night and more, or I'll try. Anyway, may God bless you. May He walk with you. Be one with your spirit. I love you all. You all have a good night. Have a good Monday night. I will be here. If I'm not here live tomorrow night at the same time, same bat channel, I will play a pre-recorded show, but it will be done the exact same way. It's not going to be edited. It's, you know, I'm going to do it the exact same way. The only difference would be, not that we ever have call-ins, but I wouldn't be able to have call-ins, obviously, if it wasn't a live show. Due to circumstances, I may have to do some pre-recorded shows, but other than, I mean, you pretty much wouldn't know the difference. I'm not going to be doing any special editing or anything like that. I'm going to do the show the same way I do it now. I will just be playing and recording from between 7 and 8 instead of actually here in the flesh doing it. So, anyway, on that note, you guys have a good night. I will see you tomorrow night. Have a good one. Love you all.